Locked on Jazz for the 27th of May. The Jazz even the series at 1. No one can stop anyone. What happens to the defense and how does someone solve it? It's a live show. We'll take your thoughts. The impact of Donovan's return as well. And we'll break down the various elements of this one. It's all coming up on a Thursday live show of Locked on Jazz. Pow! How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thanks to the Thursday edition of the program. Excited to have you aboard and excited to have you on a live show or tuning in. Thanks so much for tuning in all week. Our numbers have been great. Obviously, we're at the peak of everything that's going on. And so thanks so much for tuning in. And if you could tell 5 or 6 friends each, that'd be great. And we want to chart up the iTunes charts. And frankly, I now have a competition going with Nick Angstead of Locked On Mavericks of who can be ranked higher in the iTunes charts. And we're losing. And I don't like to lose. That's not acceptable. All right, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. Amazing selection, reliably low. Wait, that's rock auto. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your next order. I'm going to break this one down for a while, then we'll take your questions and your thoughts on the live show today as well. All right, so first off, Mike Conley was a basketball savant last night. He was just brilliant. The offensive performance that he put together with Rudy Gobert late in the game. The Jazz did a bunch of interesting little adjustments as I rewatched Conley's 15 assists and his field goals last night. One of the things I noticed was the Jazz found a way to get more space between Conley and Gobert on their pick and roll action so that Conley could find a passing lane to Rudy, and Rudy was terrific finishing. But what really jumped out to me, and I didn't watch them chronologically, which I'll do today when I go rewatch the game. But what jumped out to me actually, here's what I did. I watched Mike Conley's 15 assists, and then I watched Mike Conley's field goals. You can do it at nba.com/stats. It's nothing unique. And what jumped out to me was actually the coverages and how many different things he saw. So on the baskets, he's scoring on their drop coverage. Valanciunas is dropping back. He's putting up the floater. They're staying with Rudy. Then on all the assists, Valanciunas is suddenly playing up a little more aggressively and on the ball, and then they're creating the space that they need to create to open up the opportunities for everyone else. And that's where you're getting the bounce passes in and creating the room. And it's also where they got the Favors dunk. And, you know, it's an interesting way to look at it because chronologically, it's far more impressive than what I watched in that sequence. And what I mean by that is, so I'm watching his assists. So he had clearly figured out, well, if this is the read, you know, this is their defense, this is my read. And, you know, he's been in the league for 13 years and he's done this perfectly and he answers all of those things correctly and makes the right. He was just a basketball savant. And then you watch the baskets, you would believe, oh, he's just getting that read over and over and over again. If you actually watch it live, it's intermixed, right? It's one time he's getting this read, one time he's doing this, one time he's doing that. He was just fabulous. Absolutely remarkable, Mike Conley. Everything of why the Jazz traded for him, every reason you would get that guy, every reason of why he changes who we are as a team. He was just fabulous. And he and Rudy have been great this whole series. Their numbers are through the roof. As much as we're going to talk about we can't stop John Morant, they actually have not figured out how to stop this one yet either. And it doesn't entirely matter if Valanciunas is on the floor or not. You know, this series right now is being completely dictated by foul trouble. So, you know, in game 1, Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert go out of the game with early in the third quarter. It's 54-50. The Jazz are making their move. They're coming back. You feel like the Jazz have made major inroads, and then all of a sudden it goes the other way where, you know, Memphis runs it out. We have that really bad sequence. We're missing Donovan, we're missing Mike, we're missing Rudy. Like, we're missing 3 All-Stars. This one, they're missing Jonas Valanciunas for much of the first quarter and a great deal of Dylan Brooks as well. And so foul trouble is largely dictating this. When both teams have all their guys on the floor, nobody can get stops, which is incredible because this is the number 1 and number 6 defense in the league. This is the number 1 half-court defense and the number 7 half-court defense. Like, this is incredible that these two teams can't get stops. It might be because you have 2 of the great coaches in the league. Taylor Jenkins is a coaching star, and we know Quinn Snyder is a coaching star. And they are spacing the floor and moving guys and putting people in positions that simply nobody can get answers defensively, which is remarkable. Memphis scored on 15 straight possessions to open up the third. The Jazz scored on 7 straight to open up the fourth, and then got a bunch of stops and then ran off another 5 or 6 straight with this part of the game where Mike Conley was so remarkable. Here's the other part of where Mike Conley was so remarkable last night. Going back and re-watching the game, Memphis did some things I've rarely seen teams do. They had Jaren. It's hard to explain, obviously. We're actually on video, so I can pull a video for it, and maybe I'll try to do it as a Twitter thread at DLock09. But I mean, super interesting. So usually when you have a pick and roll, you've got Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert, and so they, let's say they started with Ja Morant and Jonas Valanciunas defending it. And so if you drop the big, what you're trying to do is play it with 2 players. Valanciunas is dropping. Morant staying with Conley probably on the backside. Valanciunas is kind of guarding both guys, and that's where Mike gets the floater, and you're hugging to your 3-point shooters. Okay? The next most common thing you do is you decide to bring the big up to bother the ball handler. Okay? You're playing even to the screen, and then you're playing behind Mike to prevent the 3. You're going over the top of the pick, so you're preventing the 3. And then you bring somebody usually from the weak side. Almost no one leaves a strong side corner. So you're coming from the weak side to hit Rudy on the roll, and you got an extra guy in there, and you're going to force Mike Conley to make that pass out in some manner, okay? What Memphis did a few times last night was the Jazz would run the pick and roll, and Jaren Jackson would come off of the wing to guard Rudy Gobert on the roll. Like, specifically, just Jaren Jackson would come and guard the roll guy off whoever he was guarding on the wing, often Royce O'Neal. Pretty creative stuff from Memphis, and it kind of in some things I haven't seen. And then to Mike Conley's ability, amazing that he was able to make the read and have that, astute read of what situation. We also knocked down a ton of shots, right? It's a make or miss league. We didn't make him in the first night. We made him second. The other part of game 2, Donovan being back, just changed everything. Donovan does not have a lot of problems with Dylan Brooks. He kind of actually is strong enough and good enough with the ball that Dylan Brooks' overly aggressive style that knocked Joe and Jordan out of their game went the other way. And in fact, made it so that the Jazz, I would say, Donovan actually thrives on that overplay by Dylan Brooks. And then the Jazz Ja Morant was unbelievable last night. He's amazing. But as much as Ja Morant's beating up Mike Conley's beating up Ja Morant. Frankly, no one's getting stops on either of the main combinations. The Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley pick and roll against Ja Morant and Jonas Valanciunas, no one's getting stops. The Ja Morant, Jonas Valanciunas against Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley, no one's getting stops. But the Jazz were able to go at Ja Morant a little bit. He's not a great defensive player yet. He's in his second year in the NBA. He is still young and inexperienced. And so the fact of the matter is that the Jazz, I think, took advantage of some aspects there. This is gonna be a tussle, by the way. The Jazz, I think, with Donovan back, are the better team. The record shows it during the year. But Memphis has won 8 of their last 10. They're plus 19 with their starting lineup on the floor this year. When they have Ja Morant on the floor, they're terrific. Now, Taylor Jenkins rolled it out last night and didn't kid around. Ja Morant never checked out of the second half of the game. There were some interesting rotation things. But the key minutes of the game are when Tyus Jones comes in. Can the Jazz take advantage? And in 4.5 minutes, they were -6. Because when Morant's not on the floor, they're 10 points worse per 100 possessions offensively than they are when he's on the floor. And so Ja Morant just never checked out of the second half. I'm not sure that you can play Ja Morant for 21 straight minutes the way they did last night in every single game of this series, particularly when we move to every other day. But he's 21 years old, and maybe that's a possibility. The Jazz, with Donovan back, got back to their key rotation. We talk all the time about it. The lineup that's Mike Conley with Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson, George Niang, and Rudy Gobert got back out on the floor together. In the first quarter, in the final 3:14, they were +4. In the second, they were +5 in the second quarter. So that key lineup was +9. That's the Tyus Jones minutes where Mike Conley's going up against second team. We didn't get that unit on the floor in the third quarter because Donovan's still not quite right. And what the Jazz coaching staff did to get Donovan's minutes is they played him in 2 stints in the first half and 3 stints in the second half. So the Jazz still not at 100% efficiency, had to change their rotation because of Donovan Mitchell's health issues and get him to play him a shorter. He usually plays, 9, 10, 11 minutes of the first quarter, and then they flipped, and then he plays the second quarter, and then the Jazz had to shorten that in the third quarter, and then it meant that we didn't get our regular unit back out on the floor. But that unit of Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson, George Niang has been the key to our season. We got that back on the floor, and it made a mammothly important difference for the Jazz. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends at grip6.com. Merino wool socks, they're insulating, moisture wicking, and backed by a lifetime warranty. It's just another great product from Grip 6. Runners like them. I use them all the time. Colts walking golf day, I had them on the other day. And, of course, there's the wallet, the fabulous wallet they built, and the signature of Grip 6 is their belts. The belts that I like so much that once you've tried, you will love because there are no holes, no flaps, and no bulk. Quality craftsman guaranteed in an unlimited lifetime warranty from your Utah company. It's grip6.com. Check it all out and get your Locked On promo code for 15% off. I prefer and a fan of the honeycomb belt. If you're a chess player, they have new chess piece belts, which I got to say are pretty darn cool. And they even have a new premium chess set by Grip 6 that they're putting out. I guess there's some real chess lovers over there, but that's a kind of fun setup. And I love that. But they put their passions into what they do. They have the Naturalist series. They have the Flag series. They have the chess series, and then all the other great premium series. And the Work Belt series is really interesting. If you're the Work Belt Pro, it's their toughest belt yet. Go ahead and check it out. The Work Belt Gunmetal is good looking, as is the Pro Ninja, all at grip6.com. Today's show is also brought to you by rockauto.com. Rock Auto giving you the same prices. I just realized that I forgot to do Locked On NBA last night. That was absolutely what that brain cramp was right there. I just realized it. I spaced it. RockAuto.com is a family business serving auto parts customers online for 20 years. Go to RockAuto.com to shop for auto and body parts for hundreds of manufacturers. They have everything from engine control modules to brake pad, tail lamps, brake parts, tail lamps, motor, and even new carpet. Whether it's your classic or daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. It's RockAuto.com. The catalog is unique, remarkably easy to navigate, quickly easy to see all parts from your vehicle and choose the brand specifications and prices you prefer. Right, Locked On, the How You Hear About Us section. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. It's rockauto.com. All right, I do want to get to your questions on both Instagram and on our YouTube, our Twitch, our Facebook accounts, but I also want to touch on a few other things in this ballgame. I've got a page worth of notes for you on the back seat, recycling old game notes. So we touched on a bunch of them. I think there's a funny irony going on today. Usually what we have, hey, special shout out to Q from Grip 6, who just said hi in the chat room. Gotta love the Grip 6 people. Usually what we have going on is that Rudy gets victimized once a game by somebody on a cute dribble, or they score, or Rudy does this, and the internet goes crazy with with complete, meme of Rudy and this of Rudy, and he actually dominated the game. Today we actually have the opposite. Rudy's block on Morant has gone completely viral, is amazing, is a great play, and yet the fact of the matter is, Morant probably got the best of Rudy today. So we're on the opposite side of the usual spectrum today in regards to the internet, which is kind of funny. Let's talk about Morant. So the first issue at hand here that the Jazz have got to deal with is the fouls. So I'm a little bit of the school of thought that you can let Ja Morant with his floater go get his. Now, if he shoots 15 of 26, you're in trouble. But that's not actually what he usually shoots. But the 20 free throws are the problem. Like, the Jazz have got to find a way, and I'll rewatch the game to be able to analyze it, to not foul him at the level in which they did that game. 20 free throws is an outrageous amount. In fact, 38 free throws is outrageous. I don't think we set an NBA record last night for fouls called in a game 50, but it felt like it. Foul trouble is dictating the series right now more than any other aspect. I mean, neither team can stop anyone on their main play pick and rolls, and then foul trouble is dictating a huge amount of it. But 47 for Ja Morant. The problem to me, is the 7 assists and the 20 free throws. There's some level where I think if you just leave Morant to be Morant and cut off the rest of their guys, I think we're okay. That's a really tough decision to make. He and Valanciunas together are just crushing the Jazz in the pick and roll. Their rate of scoring is through the roof. And the problem is that the key to me on all of the plays last night was Morant gets in the lane and floats one over Gobert. Gobert comes out for a play, comes up on Gobert on him for a play, and he floats it over Gobert for the dunk. Valanciunas ends up getting a technical on the play. But to me, that was like the key play because we talked about this yesterday. Valanciunas is such a beast. He occupies Rudy. You have to stay with him or he's just going to dunk or make that little flip shot the whole time. So Rudy is really stuck on Valanciunas' body the entire time. There's not much else he can do. Like you can say, he's got to come out and deal with Morant more. But if Valanciunas is in the game, I don't think that's a viable answer. And so you end up with Morant with this little floater the whole time, which is, frankly, in my book, better than Valanciunas dunking, better than Desmond Bane or Grayson Allen shooting a three. You might decide that Kyle Anderson's three-point shooting is such that you're willing to leave him. I think you're going to have to decide a little bit on which of these guys you're willing to say, all right, they're going to get a catch and shoot three. I don't love that. Like, I actually kind of like back to the premise of who we've been all year long as a team, which is we're not going to allow threes. We're not going to let you get to the rim. And if Ja Morant's going to knock us out of a playoff series on a floater, then he's going to knock us out of a playoff series in a floater, which would suck. But Desmond Bane's 45% catch and shoot three. I don't want to leave him. Anthony Melton, to his credit, to become viable at 43%. Grayson Allen's 40%. Dylan Brooks is a great catch and shoot three-point shooter at 39%. He's not good off the bounce. Xavier Tillman's at 35%. Now, Kyle Anderson is at 34%. And Jaren Jackson's at 31% on catch and shoot. So those are the two guys that maybe you're coming in further off Jaren Jackson and off of Kyle Anderson and forcing them to make some threes against you to slow this down. But my other choices of any of those first guys getting a catch and shoot or Jonas Valanciunas dunking, I'd rather have Morant shooting the shot. So what I think the keys are three things. One is you've got to limit his easy baskets. He had 3 fast break baskets and 1 offensive rebound back, and he had an alley-oop. Like, that's 5 of his field goals last night. So that's a little bit, that's a problem. Those are way too easy pickups last night for Ja Morant. Morant finished the night 2 of 2 at the rim, which one of them is a fast break dunk and one of them is a alley-oop. So, I think that he doesn't actually get to the rim on Rudy at any point. He just goes 6 of 9 on his floater, which is insane and awesome, and to his credit, because he's been great. And I think you don't want to let Andy Larson had a nice note, which I didn't actually have, about what they are off Morant's passing, and it's like much better than his shooting. So the next part is you got to keep him off the line in the park. But Valanciunas is too big a deal in there. Rudy's fourth quarter was absolutely awesome. That's got to be brought up and talked about how incredible he was in the fourth quarter of this ball game with what he did. An interesting note, I love the QSQ note and some of the stats on these two games. So this is your shot quality. Here's a few notes that kind of were really, really surprising to me between game 1 and game 2. So in game 1, the Jazz threw. I thought the Jazz playing with a pass was a million times better in game 2 than game 1. The Jazz threw 281 passes in game 1, and in game 2, the Jazz threw, I think, about the 278 passes. They threw literally the exact same amount of passes in each game. So that is not telling you an awful lot about what happened in either of the games, which was surprising to me. QSQ is a number that I'm a big believer in. It tells you what the Jazz shot quality was and what they did. And the Jazz shot 54, had a QSQ of 54%. They shot, this is according to Second Spectrum, they had 11 percentage points better than average. So we had an incredible shooting night. Memphis did too. Memphis had a little bit of an out-of-body shooting night as well. They were 8 percentage points above their average. So that's a little unusual. The Jazz, so the key number there that I was looking at was 54% was the Jazz QSQ. And in game 1, the Jazz QSQ was 54%. So, and they shot 4 percentage points below what they should have. So definitely having Donovan back made a huge difference. But interesting to me, on a game that felt so different, the Jazz had the exact same amount of passes, the exact same type of shot quality. Memphis, on the other hand, went from having a shot quality of 47% to 50%. So something went a little awry in the shot quality that we were giving up to Memphis in this game, and they got better. And we've got to narrow down and break that down. All right, let's get to some of your questions. I have a few other notes. Jordan Clarkson's still way off. People are talking about 1 seed versus 8 seed, and that's much closer than we expected. I guess I did not expect that. I would point out, though, the Jazz did not trail in this game at any point other than in the middle of the first quarter. They led by as many as 22. Their average lead for the night was 10. That game was not that close. I'm a little bit, I understand that Memphis scored 15 times in a row and it was pretty unnerving. Memphis scored 15 times in a row and lost. So I'm not in the school of thought that I think that game was as close as everyone thinks. All right, let's get to some of your questions and then we'll get to more. I keep thinking Quinn might try Oni on Morant last night, but whose minutes would he take? Kelton's a great question. And if Oni's got two things that kind of did not go great at the end of the second half of the season, one was a high level of fouling, and the others, he didn't make shots. So, part of what our offense would be the fact that, they're not going to guard Oni. He's going to have to, if Oni's going to play at all, he's going to get 3 corner threes. He's going to have to make them. He's going to have to make 2 of them to make it work. And that's high. So, so I think that's that's worth, I get the concept. I think that I would just say that that's probably why not. Lee, thank you. You're welcome. Ryan, nice to hear from you. Guys who said hi. Josh wanted to know what you think the Jazz need to do to quiet Ja. I think I got that. Do you believe Mitchell really went to the locker room just to stay warm? Well, I think he was chilled and they need a little down vest or something of that sort. No. I think that, stay warm in his mind, I think, was just to kind of work out whatever he just felt, make sure he knew he was all right and keep his body moving. He clearly just didn't want to sit down. And I think that was it. Having Donovan changed everything last night. Having Donovan changed everything. We'll get into that here in a second. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and it's back. Orange chocolate Built Bar is back right now. They've got the 9 base flavors: coconut almond, mint, salted caramel, raspberry, peanut butter brownie, coconut, double chocolate, cookies and cream and cherry. And then they're launching their special flavors, and it's fun. It's like, what's going to be out today on Built Bar? Well, today it's orange, and orange is one of the first ones where I have to admit I was stunned. I liked it. It does taste a little bit like a dreamsicle. I didn't think I would like the kind of mix there. It worked out. It's really good, and it's available. With the promo code LOCK15, you can get 15% off. And orange is no different than anything else. 100% chocolate and still 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, and 4 grams of sugar. No one does it like Built Bar. Go check it out at builtbar.com. Today's show is also brought to you by betonline.ag. Let's check out what we got. Let's see what the latest is for the basketball world. I would assume the Jazz become a pretty dominant favorite in this series after evening it up. The Bucks are minus 1150. The Lakers are minus 365. Blazers are minus 170. Hawks are favored at minus 145. Nets are minus 20,000. Mavericks are minus only 280. Wow, it's a lot, but not. Sixers are minus 10,000, and Jazz are minus 600. So in most likely to win their first round series at this point, the Brooklyn Nets are number 1. The Bucks are number 2. The Sixers are 3, and the Jazz are actually 4, even though we're tied 1-1. Lakers are 5. That's interesting. Mavericks are 6th most likely to win their series, but up 2-0. The Hawks are 7th. Or no, the Blazers are 7th, and the Hawks are 8th of the favorites. So they still have the Hawks and the Knicks as the most, as kind of the best matchup that's out there. Interesting. Tonight, we've got the Bucks in Miami. The Heat are a 1.5 favorite according to betonline.ag. Lakers are a 6.5-point favorite, and the Blazers are a 3.5-point favorite at home. betonline.ag is the answer for you. With Locked On is your welcome bonus, a 50% welcome bonus. They're not kidding around. Tyson Cott 8 says, how do you think we should guard Ja on Instagram? I think I broke that down, but I think that's the question everybody has, and maybe I wasn't as clear on that as I should have. I actually would stay with the coverage we're using, force him to make the floater, keep Valanciunas off the easy layups and dunks, try to break his rhythm a little bit, with Favors maybe guarded a little bit differently at times, because frankly, Favors is just not tall enough to bother Valanciunas. And maybe if I can, come off Kyle Anderson and come off Jaren Jackson a little bit, just to be in his way and alter his route. The other one that's interesting on Morant is he is a really dominant left side of the floor player. If you look at his shot chart from last night, it's almost all on the left side of the floor. And he just does not shoot well on the right side of the floor. He gets to that left side. That's his game. Is there anything you can do to force him and keep him to the right side of the floor? It makes him uncomfortable. He's not as good in that circumstance. And the numbers on it, as I will get them for you here, on Morant in the right side of the floor this year, he's 4 of 17 shooting. On the left side of the floor, he's on these little short shots. He's 30 of 64, nearly 50%. In the middle, he's 47 of 120. So, he is like no one's been able to do what I just said, which is keep him to the right side of the floor. But if there's any way you can shield him and get him to the right side of the floor, that would be a great way to do it. Let's go to a longtime listener, Brandon Whiteside. Do we go so far to the offensive extreme that the only players who can defend on the whole team is Rudy and maybe Favors? Our perimeter defense is a sieve. Well, also, their perimeter ball handler is amazing. And Dylan Brooks was great coming out in the third quarter with all that energy and tenacity. But I think we have. I mean, Brandon, we've made 5 primary roster changes in the last year that were all offense over defense. And so, no, I don't think we're a particularly good defensive team. Royce battles. And the fact is that, that's kind of who we are, and it's worked. And thank God, because last night's an example where if we don't make those offensive changes to be an offensive team, we lose. That's a game that we would lose in the past because we wouldn't have the offensive firepower to fill it up. Here's Morant's numbers so far in the series. Let me see. Against various, and then I'll give you. So he's 10 of 16 shooting with Mike Conley defending him. He's 4 of 9 shooting with Royce O'Neal guarding him. He's 2 of 3 with Joe Ingles, 2 of 2 with Bojan Bogdanovic. He's only 3 of 8 with Rudy against him. He's also gone on the free throw line 4 times. He's 5 of 8 against Favors. The problem is that if you try to engage Rudy with him more, Valanciunas is free. And I don't know what you do about that. So the easy answer is to bring Rudy up higher But I don't know. And the other answer is to put Royce O'Neal on him a little bit more. But Dylan Brooks is 6 of 7 against Joe Ingles, 3 of 4 against Bojan Bogdanovic, 4 of 5 against George Niang, and 2 of 3 against Michael Conley, and 5 of 10 on Royce O'Neal. We can only put Royce O'Neal in how many spaces? So Royce O'Neal is going to go guard with Dylan Brooks. Donovan's going to get to hide on Kyle Anderson or something of that sort, and we're going to end up with Ja Morant and Mike Conley. And that's difficult. But the Dylan Brooks numbers on anyone, and if Dylan Brooks sees Rudy Gobert, he's 2 of 6. And Derek Favors 1 of 4. But otherwise, he's, but I would, the first thing is you got to keep him up the line. And I like our math advantage from 3, so I would stick to that. I'm almost okay with the old school of like, let Morant get his and then see what it gets. Here comes Nathan with a big question. When Rudy comes over to help on the cutters, how does the rotation work on the weak side? Valanciunas hurts when Rudy helps, similar to Ayton and Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, so in theory, if Rudy comes all the way up to Morant, Mike Conley is the one that has to go to Valanciunas. That doesn't work. Then you're at Valanciunas is 7 feet tall, Mike Conley's 6 feet tall, and that's not going to work. And that's what happened in the Ayton game, is that whoever's guarding the ball then has to roll down. If Rudy comes out and switches, you've got to make a late switch in the paint, and that doesn't work for you. Like that's not an answer. And I think that's so that's the problem. You can, and then if you bring a weak side help in like Royce O'Neal, you're bringing him off one of those guys we mentioned that are 3-point shooters. They're good. They're really, really good. This is going to be a long series, I think. I mean, if the Jazz will get game 3, then obviously game 4 is the knockout punch, right? Do you think the Jazz need to focus on slowing down Ja or slowing down Brooks? I might even just go the other guys. Like Brooks and Ja get theirs. And if Kyle Anderson, who shoots 51% and wins in 42% losses, and 44% from 3 and wins in 27% losses, does not get his, you're probably okay. Right? Like if Jaren Jackson doesn't go off, you're probably okay. If Valanciunas doesn't go for the 34-22 game he put up against Indiana or have 6 offensive rebounds like he did in 20 games this year, then you're probably okay. We're going to have to make shots. J.C. Ernst says that Royce O'Neal is the unsung hero. I would agree. He made some big shots, and they were sagging off Royce into those plays, so that was certainly the case. Andrew Livingston, probably a discussion. So discussion on the Jazz use of challenges. I think in playoff games, Quinn really wants to make sure they're going to be right before he uses a challenge that could win a game. In the regular season, you use your challenges in a manner where you say, okay, over the course of a season, if we use our challenges and we save a point a night or a point, then that's worth it. But in the playoffs, where one game has so much more value, that singular point in the middle of a game that it's not keeping a player on the floor, it's not a 3-point shot, it's not something that's really dramatic, has less value than holding it in case there's a play in the very last seconds that might dictate the outcome of the game, because that could dictate the outcome of the series in your season. So you're going to be, at least analytically, you should be more likely to hold your challenges late in the game. Has Dylan Brooks been this efficient all season and it's just been overshadowed by his defense? No, he has not been that efficient all season long. He has been more efficient than he's ever been, but his weakness has always been the amount of possessions he uses and then his lack of efficiency. His effective field goal percentage is way below league average. And again, I kind of assume that's going to regress back down. He's been great, but there's no track record. He had a career high effective field goal percentage of 48%, which is better than he's ever been. He wasn't like hot in May or anything. He had a brilliant April where he was efficient, but he wasn't, really was very good. Averaged 18 points, shot 47% from the field and 42% from 3. But he wasn't that great in May. He's just playing really, really well right now. You want to make him uncomfortable, but I'm not sure I would bend too far. I'm just not sure I would bend too far on any of this. I just generally believe we've done that that they're shooting well. We can still beat them. The last thing I want to see is Desmond Bane hitting 4 threes, us losing our 3-point advantage. This is hard. Like, if I was in the coaches meeting and suddenly saying this, I think I might get run out of the room because of the fact that, like, you're really not making any major changes and Morant's going to go get 47. Yeah, I might be willing to do that again if it means we win. And I just don't think last night's game was that close. Fazli from Sri Lanka, nice to hear from you. Appreciate it. Jeremy Tucker points out Dylan Brooks led the league in fouls this year. Keep going at him and see if he can adjust. He was physical and great. He does foul a lot. The league knows it. They're not lost on that. And we'll see whether or not the Jazz can make some adaptation on that. Final question, Jordan, why do the Jazz struggle so much against high pick and roll? Jamal Murray killed us last year. Morant killing us again this year. Instead of pull-up threes, it's attacking the basket. Because our theory is we're trying to keep you off the rim, and we're going to keep you off from threes. Now, Murray was hitting the off-the-bounce three, which is the answer. And so, if you, in those circumstances, that's what you're trying to protect. If you have a player that can make these shots, if John Morant, who during the season, I think, shot 43% on the floaters, goes ahead and shoots what we just talked about he's done so far in the series, which is last night going 6 of 9. If he wants to shoot 67% on a shot that has a league average 43% that he was right on, then that's going to be a hard one for us to handle. And we'll have to make some sort of adjustment. Boxing one probably would not work in that is one of the questions that came in. And finally, I took one more. How concerned are you about the Jazz blowing these huge leads? Do you think this is an adjustment by Utah sign of how good Memphis is? And Memphis just keeps coming. It's the playoffs. Nothing's going to be easy. So, no, I'm not concerned. And the fact we never relinquished the lead tells me a lot. Memphis was great last night, and we won. All right, we're going to wrap this up by letting you hear what Sean Coleman of Locked On Grizzlies had to say. Get his perspective. You can go listen to Locked On Grizzlies as well today, and hear what he had to say. That'll be on the podcast version on the live show. You won't hear. All right, that is Locked On Jazz today. Thanks. Go listen to Sean Coleman on Locked On Grizzlies. Get his take. He's done a really nice job. It was fun to have him on the show yesterday. This has been a lot. Friday, I'll rewatch. We'll do a rewatch show tomorrow with all the notes on it. But fun series. We'll see whether we can take a commanding 2-1 lead on Saturday. Watch party at the arena as well, so make sure you put that in your plans. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. This is Locked On Jazz, part of Locked On Podcast Network.